Welcome to the first Spittin' the Truth episode with the Sports Guru 716, aka Andy, and I'd like to talk about the John Scott situation a little bit here. I feel personally that it's okay that he's in the All-Star game. I know some people don't care, and some people think it's a bad thing, and some people are like me and are happy that he's in there. I feel that some people may have voted maliciously when they voted for him because, haha, it's 3-on-3. Watch John Scott play hockey 3-on-3 that he's never played and that he's not going to do a good job doing it. But in my opinion, I really think that he is going to have fun doing it and he's going to enjoy himself, whether he gets scored on 10 times or not. I'm sure the Pacific Division doesn't like it, but, that's the risk they took. And frankly, those fan bases should be ashamed that they allowed John Scott in there because they should have voted their own player in there over John Scott. So that's their problem. So if they're going to complain that, oh, why is John Scott our captain, maybe your fan base should have taken care of it and actually voted more. Now, in the instance of John Scott playing, the NHL tried to screw him. In my opinion, I think they tried to screw him. When Arizona and the NHL asked him, can you please not play in the All-Star game? He said, nah, I'm going to play in the All-Star game. And the problem is, when that happened, all of a sudden he got traded to Montreal for Jared Tenorti. There was a 2-for-2 there. Victor Bartley was in there and Stephon Elliott was in there. It was a three-way deal between Nashville, Montreal, and Arizona. But regardless, that was an attempt to kick John Scott out of the All-Star game. And the only reason they brought him back in there was because the fans were outraged. And me personally, I posted on Twitter, free John Scott. I thought that he should be allowed in the All-Star game. They're like, oh, well, this is an abuse of the fan vote. Some people are like, the best players aren't in the fan vote. This isn't fair. Well, look at it this way. Last year, Zemgus Girgensons was in it. I'm a Buffalo Sabres fan. The Sabres fan base and the country of Latvia personally voted in Zemgus Girgensons when he may have not even been our best player, let alone a player worthy of being in the All-Star game. And when that happened, the NHL quickly changed the rules afterwards that you had a limited amount of times you could vote or international votes counted differently. I forget what exactly they did, but they changed something after that. And now they've run into a situation where John Scott won, and they're complaining, saying, "Oh, well, John Scott won. This isn't fair. This isn't right. He shouldn't be allowed in it." John Scott should be allowed in because you have a fan vote. Fan votes are fan votes, and you have to honor those. Regardless of whether you think the fans were malicious, and regardless whether you think the fans were wrong in choosing who they chose. Because a few years ago, the Montreal Canadiens almost had a full starting lineup, or they did. I'll tell you right now, I don't think the Montreal Canadiens were probably the best team in the league that year that deserved all three forward spots, defensive pair, and a goalie, all at the same time. I doubt it. I doubt Zemgus Girgensons deserved to be in the All-Star game last year. This isn't the first time a player's been voted in as a starter in the All-Star game when they shouldn't have been. But this is a fan vote, and obviously they haven't learned. This is the risk they take. They choose a fan vote. This is what happens. You look at baseball. The Kansas City Royals pretty much own the AL All-Star team. Mike Trout, I don't even think was a starter. Somebody wasn't a starter. That was a big deal. But with that was a risk. I was arguing with people. The MLB risked it. With a fan vote, you risk it. I think the NFL does it right. It's not necessarily a fan vote as much as it is 1/3 fans, I think 1/3 players, and 1/3 coaches and GMs. And that is the way to do it. I think if you want to keep the fans involved, that works. That encourages fans to not only vote, but that the fans cannot manipulate the vote to the point where John Scott gets in it. You're not going to look at the NFL and see, Josh McCown in the Pro Bowl this year. You're not going to see that. You're not going to see Johnny Manziel in the Pro Bowl. A lot of people like Johnny Manziel. A lot of people hate him. A lot of people like him, and a lot of people hate him. And he could end up in there if they did a fan vote 100%. A fan base could be like, hey, I want to vote my team in there. I want to vote as many of my players in there. Let's vote the whole Buffalo Bills offensive line. And it's not a very good offensive line. So the fact of the matter is, I think with a fan vote, that is what you risk. That is the risk you take as a league. You said, this is a fan vote. Vote whoever you want, and we will allow them to be the captain of that division. You have John Scott, and now he's the captain of the Pacific Division. Thankfully, the NHL went back and said, okay, John Scott, you're allowed in. Because at first, They told him, please don't go and we'll offer you tickets. Then they tried to get him traded. Now, that's a conspiracy theory, and I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy. At the same time, it's kind of fishy. It is fishy that happened because Arizona kept sending him down. Then Montreal said they're never going to bring him up, or they didn't say that, but a lot of people were saying, oh, he's never going to come up, and he may never play in the NHL again now. And, I just think it's cool that he gets this opportunity. He's a good guy. You see his interview on ESPN, and he's humble about it. He's laughing about it. He's like, I know I'm not supposed to be here, but at the same time, it's going to be a good time. I'm going to enjoy it because this is a once in a lifetime experience for a guy like him. He doesn't get this opportunity, and frankly, I think he may be the last guy that gets this opportunity, which is probably the best thing for the NHL to do at this point because this is going to happen again every single year. It was Gergensen's last year. It was Scott this year. It's been the full Canadiens roster one year. Like, the first time this really happened was the Rory Fitzpatrick situation. And if you recall, Rory Fitzpatrick used to be a Buffalo Sabre, and then he went to the Vancouver Canucks. And in his time with Vancouver, all of a sudden, he almost got in the All-Star game. He got a ton of votes, and this was like 10 years ago. And you'd think by now they would have learned, oh, well, we probably should get rid of the fan vote if we don't want somebody to get in that doesn't deserve it, because the fans in the NHL will do it. They will vote, and they will vote hard, and they will vote often in an attempt to get their favorite players, or, in John Scott's case, maybe a player that doesn't belong in there. And I, for one, like John Scott. I think he was a good he's not. He is a good tough guy to have on your team. Probably the toughest guy in the league. But at the same time, he's not the best hockey player. And frankly, I don't think he really deserves to be in the All-Star game. But that's a fan vote. The fans want it. The fans want it. And you got to give the fans what they want, because the All-Star game has been terrible the last 5 or 6 years. Think about it. When was the last time you watched an All-Star game? Comment below the last time you watched an All-Star game. And comment below if you think John Scott should be in this All-Star game, and if you're going to watch it because John Scott's in it. Like, I'm going to watch it because John Scott's in it now, because I'm going to be like, oh, well, I want to see John Scott in 3-on-3. I think that'd be interesting. Maybe he sucks. Probably he'll suck, But at the same time, he'll be in the skills competition. What, he's going to be in hardest shot because he's a big guy? That makes sense. Maybe he'll be in the hardest shot. He's not going to be in fastest skater. He's not going to be in accuracy. Watch, all of a sudden he's going to be in accuracy. He's going to go 4 for 4 or something, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh my God, what were we thinking the whole time?" But I doubt it. So he's going to be a good guy to have. He's going to have a good time with the other hockey players. Hopefully all the other hockey players accept him in there. I think the Pacific Division team's going to feel a little shafted because they're going to have John Scott on their team, but if you can make up for it, then you win. So make up for it. With this whole situation the way it is, I personally believe that this was completely fair to have John Scott finally in the All-Star game. I know that some fans around the league and probably some players feel shafted that they should be in the All-Star game and not him. I don't think Sidney Crosby's in the All-Star game. Well, Sidney, you had a half-ass season. You're a very good hockey player that's been having a half-ass season, so you don't get to be in there. And, it was funny. Last year, I think I may have mentioned it earlier. After Zemgus got in, they added one player from every team. Be like, hey, you can have one player from every team in the All-Star game, which was an attempt to kind of silence the Zemgus Girgensons crowd, because there probably shouldn't have been a Sabre even at the All-Star weekend. And this year, now they have it so that every team has one player. And, Malkin was that guy for Pittsburgh. That is what it is. If Crosby was better, maybe they don't have two of some other team in his division in there. So it's really his fault, in my opinion. And, you can't blame anybody but yourself in that regard. To close out my first episode of Spittin' the Truth, I'd like to say thank you for listening this long. And if you liked it, do comment below with any opinions and what your thoughts are on the John Scott situation and what you'd like me to talk about next. More than likely, I'm going to tell you the truth. That's the point of calling it Spittin' the Truth. I'm not a rapper, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you how I really feel, and comment below how you really feel. And we'll argue about it if you want to argue about it. We'll talk about it, relatively calmly. And, yeah, so Thank you for watching. Please like if you liked it. As I said, comment below and subscribe if you want to see more. These are going to be kind of random based on things that are happening around the wide world of sports and based on how you guys feel below. So, thank you for watching.